Welcome. Hi everyone. Welcome to Beyond Small Talk every Thursday at the 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Hour. Thank you for joining. My name is Jackie Janik. I am a women's empowerment coach, helping women uncover their purpose and define their own path in the world. And today, you are watching Beyond Small Talk. Real women, real conversations, elevating womankind one talk at a time. And today I am so excited to have the beautiful May, her handle as at Little May Sunshine, as my co-host today. And we're talking about the topic is called open mic. What is it? Why do it? She's going to share about one of the pillars of Beyond Small Talk is that it's a conviction that a woman's voice matters and deserves to be heard, and she's going to help us do this. So May is a creator, writer, photographer, community organizer. She resides in Jersey City, and her IG handle again is so cute, so expressive of who she is, at Little May Sunshine, and she describes it as a visual vomit of an empath's endless soul search. Let's get her on. She just requested us. Yay! Have May. I haven't seen her in person in months. Well, it's been a pandemic too, so that happens.
Hi.
Hi.
How
Hey, how
are
are
you?
you?
Good. I'm so good. Thank you so much for the introduction. I just want to say my name's pronounced Mai, like Ny.
I
No
am
worries.
so
That's
sorry.
totally okay. I'm also personally trying to be better about it because I know sometimes it gets very like awkward to correct someone pronouncing the name, but I was like totally fine. I just wanted to put that out there just to be clear.
No, please do. I am so sorry. And I should be better at this. No, my last name gets like Janik. No one knows how to say it, which I'm totally used to at this point. I'm like, whatever. But I should have I really apologize. So it's
No, no
my.
worries. I love the
And
introduction.
oh, thank you. How do you say your last name?
So I know that's a little complicated too. So I pronounce it Nguyen because it's phonetically close to how it's pronounced in Vietnamese, which is
Mhm.
pronounced Nguyen. So easier without the accent, I just say Nguyen. So my
Wait, okay.
Nguyen.
That is so pretty. And I love your handle. I think it is like perfectly describes who you are.
Thank you. Thank you. It was kind of on accident, but I kind of love that it's fully encompassed who I am and my energy. So it kind of worked out that way, that it kind of like matched up with my personality as well.
And how is it an accident? Like I like to hear how handles get created.
Yeah, it's so funny. So my sunshine was way back when AIM was a thing. Do you remember that AIM? It was like that chat. Oh, so sorry.
Yeah,
I
like
got
the AOL kind of, no.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
was putting a screen name together and I was like, okay, gotta put together. And it was also, it really started because I had a crush on this guy in high school. I think it was like a while ago. And he was like, and we had very limited texting. So it was one of those things where you pay monthly. And so we were like, oh my
Okay.
gosh, but we want to talk to each other. So I was like, okay, I gotta think of a screen name like really fast. And then I was like, okay, my sunshine, that sounds nice. And then that's how it came to be, and it's stuck by me ever since. And I love it. I love telling the story, and it flows very nicely.
It does. It just aligns with who you are, like you said, your energy and everything. So thank you so much. And again, I apologize for the name. I
No
know
worries.
better. Thank you.
No
No,
worries.
thank you. So I'm excited to talk today because I know you just had an open mic, and I don't know if everybody understands or knows much about what is an open mic. How did that get started for you? Like, what has been your passion behind doing open mic, and what have you got out of it?
Yeah, so I just had the open mic last night, so I'm still riding this high of how amazing it feels to even have put that together.
Yeah.
So open mic, for those who don't know, is just kind of like an open reading for those who do spoken word, poetry, it could be music, it could be any sort of live performance. But it provides a platform for those who kind of just want to put themselves out there, perform for others. It doesn't have to be this formal thing. You don't have to be anybody, recognizable or anything, but it really just kind of allows you to empower your art on a platform and for people and strangers. It gets really scary because I remember the first time I did an open mic, it was, I think, last year or the year before. And I was so scared, but I really knew that I felt like I loved writing, but being able to put my own voice and reading my own words out loud to a room full of strangers honestly gave me a new sense of empowerment that I really wanted to kind of kind of acquire for myself as like a self goal. And ever since, it really gives you this whole new perspective of feeling good and proud of the work that you put on, because you're sharing something that you spent so much time on, and you share like a piece of yourself out loud. So I really believe in the power of spoken word and just like saying, like, speaking out your craft. And so because of that, I was like, I really would love for more people to experience this, because in itself, it's a source of strength. It's a source of inspiration for others. And it grew from this writing workshop that I've been doing since the beginning of quarantine. These virtual writing workshops where we get together, write a little, reflect, get into some deep discussions. And after that, I was like, I want to kind of share that experience of an open mic. We spent so much time together in this community. I feel like being able to empower ourselves, not only through support, but to hear the work that we've like worked on ourselves and crafted on our own, really is something else. It's truly a magical experience. And that's really how it came to be. And yeah, I'm so glad we were able to do it. So it's really amazing.
I mean, that sounds amazing and also a bit scary as hell for some people, because just like starting this IG live, or it's really about you're being seen and heard by, yeah, strangers. And sometimes what I've experienced is that it's a bit easier in front of strangers. I don't know why. I was like, I don't know them. So it's like when I'm in like sit in women's circles and things like that, or even doing this, when I see like strangers' names pop up, I'm not as nervous. And then when I see someone I know pop up, I'm like, oh my God, now I'm nervous. Like I feel a little more
Yeah.
judged and stuff. But like I have to say, do people ever say to you, oh my God, I want to, share my creative craft. I want to be heard and share my words, but I'm scared as F to show up, because that's like one of the big fears, like this public speaking.
Mm-hmm. It really, really is. I mean, for me in the beginning, it was a huge fear of mine too, because I felt the same way. But what I've learned, and through the work that I've kind of am standing behind and really putting forth, is the power of vulnerability. I think I really step
Mm.
into that further. I try to use my platform to inspire others that vulnerability is also the basis of compassion and empathy, which I really think that we need more of every day, and being able to be
Mhm.
seen through each other, because at the basis of it, we all have struggled, are struggling, and have gone through things that may not be, one-to-one sort of apples to apples sort of thing, but we understand the feeling of beating ourselves up, of feeling very exposed and insecure. And I think at that point, like, that's where we can align on empathy and being compassionate for each other. And so for me, I always say, like, at the end of the day, the people that you're going to surround yourself, the energy you're going to put out there, no one can really take you down for being true to your inner self, right? Your inner truth. And that's why I really advocate for, or stepping into the power of vulnerability, of really deep tapping into that part of yourself. Because, if anyone's going to criticize you, if anyone's going to, take you down for speaking your truth, then that's something on them that they haven't reached out to for themselves. They haven't really tapped in within, and that's not your problem, right? So I personally have always tried to empower that in others. That's why I've created these writing workshops, and that's again why I've extended it to an open mic thing where people can even say it out loud, because I think we get in our own heads a lot. I know I do. And I let my
Mhm.
own fears, I let my own anxieties get to me and block me from the things I really want to do. And so when I found out that, like, the more I share parts of myself, the more others feel seen, and the more others feel empowered to voice themselves and be vocal as well. And so that creates the whole support system where like vibing off each other, genuine energy, we're supporting each other, lifting each other up. And hopefully that continues to spread, and so that your community becomes this support system, your rock at the end of the day. So
For sure. It's like you said, so many great things in there. One, vulnerability. I say it's like to be vulnerable is the most courageous act that anyone could do, because to be seen and heard and in a space where you might not feel always so comfortable, that takes balls. Like that takes a lot of what I call lady balls to do something like that, to be
mm-hmm.
seen and heard amongst a that's a lot. And also, I like how you said that when you show up for yourself, it's like you're modeling for other people, like what it could look like. Because doing these IGs again, people have came to me and said, well, okay, you did it, I'm going to go do it. I was like, well, I looked at other people too. I didn't invent IG Live. I didn't invent this whole thing. It's
Right.
just that at one point I was just called, and the universe kept reminding me, show up, show up, show up. And then I just started to do it. And, whether, like you said, if I have one person in my community listening and it just affects, or one person takes something away from maybe, like you said, an experience or something, or one day, I hope thousands. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. It's like, it
Right.
just feels good to do and to show up. And I
Yeah.
love community. That's another reason. Like, I'm sure you found a really beautiful community of people who either want to experiment with this or have been doing it, like newbies and people who do it like all the time.
Yeah, no, exactly. And to your point too, is like, I don't think any of us are trying to reinvent the wheel here. None of us are really like, oh, I know everything. I'm an expert in this. I can do it. Like, I still get scared doing it. I'm sure you do as well, putting these
Yeah.
together. But the thing is, like, it really just takes one person to just do it. And then somebody else will be like, you know what? I can also. And I think that's really the message here. It's not that, like, I, spent years and years trying to build up and finally I can be this, like, source of strength and courageous person. Like, I am honestly a regular human being, just like every single person who struggles with, the insecurities and the fears and like the inner voices sometimes beating ourselves up. But again, to surpass that is just, as long as I'm inspiring at least one person, then I've done what I wanted to do, which is to create that sort of like that chain of compassion and empathy, and being able to spread that good word. So yeah, like exactly what you said, we're really not trying to do anything new or different. It's just being able to just do it.
uh, to completely. And what motivates you? Like, can you give any tips? Like, do you have like a pop-up session before you get on? You play a song? Like, any tips? Like, what do you do?
So yeah, I think even like before my writing workshops, and I've been doing this for like 6-ish months, but every Wednesday, right before I get into the zone of being able to guide these workshops for others, I give myself at least an hour to step outside, get some fresh air. I pop in like my headphones, either I'm listening to music or I'm listening to some sort of like podcast that really taps into like speaking about life and just any sort of philosophies, but also writing in itself. I give myself time to just be with my thoughts and where I'm at. I think being present with who I am helps me stay grounded. And if I'm grounded, I'm better able to show up for others as well. So that's where I kind of find my motivation and just kind of a sense of peace, if anything, because I know with everything I do, it gets really hectic and it moves a million miles per hour. But I think I try to remind myself that the more I can stay present with who I am, then I will never veer too far from where, like, what I'm trying to do, which does happen and can happen, especially in a space of, trying to be this like entrepreneur or trying to start your own thing. You can just be all over the place and trying to please everybody, but then forget where you're coming from and what you're, the reason why you even do it.
Yeah, 100. I think presence is the number one like tip of doing these kind of things.
Hmm.
The same thing I can always tell when I go back and either, I've led circles or IG lives, and I can tell in the conversation the moment I wasn't present. You ever like feel that, or if you listen to yourself, or you're like, you hear it. And I could tell so well now when all of a sudden you're not present in the moment. And it's like, you just have to trust that being present, what is supposed to come through and come out of your mouth,
Yeah.
will just work for you. Like if
Yeah.
you're all in that zone kind of deal, I know this will be a podcast, so people won't see my hand motions. I talk with my hands all the time. That it aligns with you. And I'm sure when you're on a stage or around people or whatever the venue might look like, you could tell when people are totally like in the zone and present and just embracing that moment or whatever comes
Right.
up, and not being like too prepped. Like for things like this,
Right.
I don't really prep per se.
Yeah.
Like, sure, I think you have to have maybe an outline or some sort of high level general direction,
Right.
but once you get on and we're talking, I'm like, whatever comes up or whatever you say. But I'm sure you can tell when you're on, when you see people in open mic, like if they kind of lose their concentration or
Yeah.
focus or presence, it comes through.
Yeah, I mean, I think the point of also being present is not being perfect, right? Being present doesn't
Mm.
mean you have to be perfect. It means that you're just being who you are. And I think I try to remind myself that as well. Like exactly what you said, like we don't have to be fully prepped. We don't have to be fully like put together and get everything, make sure we don't mess up in any way because the point of creating community, the point of vulnerability, and the point of building compassion with one another so that we have support is that we have to see each other in our make it relatable, like last night
Mm-hmm.
I think we had like this technical problem with like our mic, and I didn't foresee that to come like happen at all, and
Yeah.
I had to improv, and honestly I was like caught off guard. I was for a moment I was like a little freaked out. I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna come back from this, but you know what, I think for me to even out loud be like, hey, I really don't know what I'm doing here. Like, I'm being awkward, whatever. And it kind of eased up the tension. Like, I got a response from the audience. Like, people were talking to me. It keeps it, I feel like, relatable. It keeps it in the moment, and just again, it doesn't have to be this perfect thing, and I think that's what makes people feel more seen and makes people feel more comfortable, is that
Yeah, you
we're
keep it
not
real. Like
right.
you just
Keep
keep
it
it real.
real. It
Like
really
we all have shit happen, and
exactly.
I just even honor people who can do that and say that even more than you're pretending like you got it
Exactly.
all together. Nobody has had it all together, like from
Right.
head to toe. It just doesn't happen, and it's like
Right.
whatever. It's not relatable either. It feels like then you put up a bit of a wall between like you and the community. And
Mm-hmm.
if you just show up and be like, hey, shit happens, people. Mics don't go on.
Exactly.
Technology. I mean, is Mercury in retrograde? I'm always like, something's gonna friggin' happen.
Right.
Like that's just it.
Exactly. But that, yeah, exactly. Like, I think that's what it is breaking down that barrier so that other people can feel like they're empowered to do it as well, right? Like, we don't want to make anyone feel like they can't do what we're trying to do is, and like we're going back to what we said in the beginning. Like, we're just
Mhm.
regular everyday human beings as well. Like, we're kind of going with the flow of things. So with that comes the imperfections, with that comes just kind of figuring it out along the way, but that's really what it takes. Like, our intentions are there, our goals are there, the messaging is there, so after that it's really just the energy guiding us through.
Absolutely. And so your craft, you're a writer. Do you say like you're a writer?
Okay, so that is something I really didn't even call myself until maybe this year,
Yeah.
because I think for the longest time I kept saying, I'm not a writer. I'm not a writer. Like, I write for fun, but I'm not a writer. And I kept thinking
Mhm.
like a writer is someone who like puts work out there and can like sell pieces of work, or like people, repost their stuff, or people know their names and things like that. And I just did it for fun. And I think I was being overly self-critical, because it was like I personally always saw the imperfections and flaws of my writing, and I was like, it was never good enough, and if I don't feel good enough, then there's no way I can be a credible writer or something. It wasn't until honestly this year that I was like, you know what, no one can call me not a writer. Like, no one can say I'm not a writer, right? Like, who gets authority on like what they get to say? And I think the point of it also is me manifesting the idea that if I want to be a writer, then I'm going to call myself a writer. I don't think anyone can say otherwise. And if not, you know, that's what art is that there are going to be people who don't align with it, who don't love it. But as long as it's my art, somebody might, you know, like that's the thing, is it's not one size fits all. So yes, now I'm starting to add in writer as my bio, because that has been something I've been kind of manifesting forward more, especially with these workshops, with this open mic. And yeah, that's how it came out.
Well, yeah, you could call yourself whatever you want. Yeah. I threw on some stuff on I made a thing, and I was like, motivational speaker. I said, I'm going to do that. And it's just like you said, you're manifesting it. So if you want to be something, who's going to challenge you? Be like, you're not that, and because what? You don't have a book?
Exactly. And
or whatever.
You're not like set in stone with it, right? Like, you're allowed to change it too. If you're like, you know what? I don't think I want to be a writer anymore. I can change it up. Or like, I don't want to be a coach anymore. But that's the thing, is I think in my head, I kept thinking, if I'm going to call myself this is stuck with me forever. And everyone's going to be like, oh, if you're a writer, where's your work? You know? But again, no one has the authority on it, you know, and we're allowed to change our minds. We're allowed to make those take different paths for ourselves. So yeah, well,
that's the thing. You're like your age, you're younger than me, right? I'm 44. So I got like some years on people here. And in my generation, my parents and my grandparents, it's like you picked that one thing and that was what you did. Yeah. And it's like you stayed at this one job for a quadrillion years, you retired, and that was it. I work in a company, my day job, where I've been there, 14 years. I'm one of those. But people who are there, who are older than me, literally are lifers. We call them lifers just because they started as kids. So it's like I love millennials and younger, because now it's like you guys don't feel so attached that you have to be one thing. Like you gave yourself permission, and I'm so happy and I'm taking a nod from, more younger people than me, that I don't have to be this one thing for the rest of my life. And I could change my mind whenever I want, which just, by the way, feels so freeing, because it's like, oh my God, do I have to choose this one thing and that's me for the next 50 years? Like that feels like a very large commitment.
Right. No, for sure. Yeah. And I think I always think about it. I'm like, we're not the same person that we were 5 years ago. So how can we know who we are going to be in 5 years from now? Right. Like, we're ever changing. So how are we supposed to make a decision permanently for the rest of our lives if we're constantly growing and we're trying to make room for that growth? So that's why I'm kind of giving myself more freedom with the way that I, partake in different types of work, in different types of opportunities. Everything that I'm doing, and I have a full-time, but I'm also on the side doing this writing thing, but also on the other side, I'm having other passion projects. And what's nice is that I don't have to box myself into one thing, because as you said, it feels more liberating to allow ourselves to kind of tap into those outlets, whether or not they're going to stick around long-term. It's not the fact that we have to make the long-term decision right now. It's the fact that we've been able to give ourselves that space and opportunity, which I completely agree, because I have Asian parents who, still don't really understand what I do, and also don't really know the side projects that I have. And it's because they didn't grow up with that same mentality. But it's nice to be able to kind of explore that on my own and kind of be like, you know what, it's okay. I don't have to adhere to what my parents grew up on, because it's a different time and I grew up differently, and I'm also a different person. So as you said, it's an act of liberation for ourselves to be able to allow those sort of self-discoveries and explorations.
Oh yeah, it feels so much better. But I hear you have parents, I have parents, and and grandparents. And I remember when I was quitting my first job, my grandmother was like, "Why would you quit? They pay you." And I'm like, "Because I hate it."
Yeah.
So you can just see generation how the mindset and the attitude has evolved. And I think it's
Exactly.
just awesome. Because like I said, if I got married in my 20s, I'm not totally not the same person. So I'm very happy I got married in my 30s because now I'm still
Mhm.
happily married. And I was
Right.
like, yeah, I was not that marriage person in
Right.
anyway. That's a side note. That's a side note about relationships. That's something. So who would you recommend? So you showcase your writing during open mic?
Yeah.
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 And who would you recommend? Like who would you say should do it?
Anyone, everyone. I have encouraged people because again, like you're giving yourself that empowerment, right? And even last night as I was encouraging people to sign up for open mic, and everyone's like, I'm really nervous, I've never really read anything, but also none of my work, I was like, none of the work is like perfect or finished or anything. And I'm like, but the point is that it's not supposed to be only reading finished work. It's not supposed to be about reading perfect work. It's that you're giving yourself that power to just read your words. Which we don't allow ourselves to, like we don't give ourselves enough time or space to just hear what we have to say, what our bodies have to say, the words that our subconscious are trying to get to us. Like, I think we're so wrapped up in everything around us and so wrapped up in trying to fit into the puzzle of what's happening around us, that we forget to even tap back into within ourselves and understand what we're trying to say and listen to what we have to say. So that is why I've been advocating that the source of power, the power of writing, but also the power of speaking your words, because again, it's an act of manifestation. You're allowing your words to kind of empower who you are and be vocal of who you are, and letting that air out to the rest of the world. And I think that is really, it's truly just amazing. And that's why I've always kind of felt like everyone should do it, and that's why I encourage anybody to do it. Because I think in some point in your life, like, even just to get up there, you don't have to be anybody. You don't have to be a writer. You don't have to be a poet. You don't have to be an artist or actor or whoever, because everyone has a voice. And if you have a voice, you have something to say. And I think that's really what it is.
Oh my God. So we're encouraging everyone on here and everyone who will listen into the future
Yes.
to reach out or find your own open mic or create a community if you're not local, because I know it's also, I'm sure, a little hard during the pandemic and all,
Right. Yeah.
some
I'm sure
limitations.
there's like virtual ones too.
Yeah. I'm sure. Yeah. Could you imagine you're on like one of these very large Zooms and that's so, oh my God, that sounds fun and scary, but I would do it.
I mean, it always sounds fun and scary, but then it's almost like a roller coaster ride. You're like, okay, I
Yeah.
don't think I can get on this. And then after you get on it and you ride the whole roller coaster, you're like, wait, this was amazing. Let me do it again. Like, that's the same adrenaline rush that I get. So I hope others as well get that.
My God, that's like my adrenaline rush after these. Like I love it. Like I, try to stay in a timeline because that's time limit because people listen for that X amount of. But I could talk like this forever, and
Right.
my friends are like, "You're on live," and I was like, "Yeah, whatever comes up." So talking about, it's been a quite interesting times. I promote and I advocate a lot for women on their own versions of self-care. It doesn't have to be the traditional manicure, pedicure, spa. Like all that's wonderful. I enjoy that thoroughly. But self-care, there's a lot more depth to it than I
Mm-hmm.
think women actually know about. So
Mm-hmm.
that's my part, trying to educate on there. What do you do for self-care?
What do I do? I feel like I don't even know how to define my own self care, which is kind of part of its own journey. I'm still understanding what I enjoy and what brings me joy and how to continue to incorporate that into my daily life. So whether it's, like I said, going outside and taking a walk and listening to music, or whether it's cooking myself a really nice meal because I think I deserve it, or honestly, I even say like self care can be like because I'll get really stressed out sometimes and I just need like 20 minutes to completely break down and just cry my eyes out. Like, even that is self care for me because I think that's allowing my body to feel what it needs to feel in that moment. and then letting it go, because then I don't have to harbor those heavy feelings anymore. And that in itself is self-care. So face masks and things like that. I know we've talked about that, and I know that's been such a like huge marketing way, industry for the wellness industry in itself, but which is great. I still recommend it, and I do those things as well. But I personally don't find that as my self-care. It is very individualized to each person and what they really, and again, it's learning what your joys are, right? So that is a journey in itself. And I think I encourage other people to really explore that, because it doesn't look the same for everyone, and it's not going to feel the same for everyone. No one can really, advertise that to you. And I think that should be kind of a self journey for each person to really get into.
No, 100%. I love that you said cry. I cry frequently and often, and I tell women cry. Like,
Yeah.
it's awesome. And afterwards, I feel like 100 times better.
Right?
I usually cry in the shower. People tell me that, sometimes they do that. I find being in the shower is therapeutic for me, which again, there's no judgment around the self-care
Right.
that you need for yourself. And this is what I tell women, like, whatever you have to do that's your joy or makes you feel good or releases energy, move energy through the body, that is considered self-care. You don't have to spend lots of money. You don't have to buy yourself anything. You don't have to like wait for someone to give you something. No, no, no. I even say saying the word no as a complete sentence without giving an explanation
Yeah.
is self-care. That's
Yeah.
setting a boundary.
That's setting
Self-care is
boundaries, and that's being
all
so.
of that.
I had this conversation with a friend as well, where we were talking about, and this was, I think, one of the discussions we had in our writing workshop about self-advocacy. But there is a difference between being assertive and being aggressive. And I think especially as women, we tend to kind of get afraid that we're going to be perceived as aggressive, which again is like this whole societal thing of, women can't be aggressive because that's not very ladylike, whatever. But I think, again, we're setting boundaries, and that is a form of self-care. Being assertive and saying no without having to feel like you are apologizing or obligated for forced to kind of have some sort of explanation, that's a form of self-care as well. So exactly what you said is just like, we're learning about that for ourselves. Like for me, boundaries was a huge theme for me this year as well, and just saying no, and not having to hold the guilt because I said no, which I'm still figuring out how to not be like always feel guilty. That's just who I am. But again, like that is a journey in itself of trying to explore, like, well, why is it that I always feel guilty when I say no or something like that.
No, but those are the right questions to ask you. That's why I like to say beyond small talk is like, those are the questions that I pose to people when I work with women. And my other favorite is like, count how many times a day you say sorry. Just count it. Like, how many times a day as women, we're just like, oh, sorry. Oh, sorry. I notice even when I walk around, like the day in my office and like somebody walked by me, I'm like, oh, sorry. What? You're like, why am I sorry for walking?
Right.
Like, come on.
Exactly.
So I just think, little things like that after you do practice, little things, baby steps and practice over and over again, eventually become monumental behavioral shifts and change and evolutions of who you are. So I think, those are what I advocate for around self-care. So we're on the same page, girl.
Yeah.
So that is great.
Well, when you say, it's when you said like, oh, I count how many times I say sorry, like the same way I kind of try to be aware of the times I say like, I feel so bad, because I know I'm trying to understand that guilt is really me getting in my own way, and it doesn't help somebody else solve their problem. So it's me saying I feel bad is not somebody else's problem to absolve my guilt. And I think that's something I need to work on as well. But again, same way is like being aware of how many times I apologize, and kind of shifting the language to be like, instead of saying sorry this, sorry that, be like, thank you for, spending the time we're here, or thank you for being patient with me here, or things like that. It's being able to shift that language is also shifting the mindset of being less like, self-pitying, but more of like, how can I do better, and how can we help each other do better?
Yeah, and accepting that You are who you are, and just accept. I know I've been using that one if I am a little late with a response or something like that.
Yeah.
Now, instead of saying sorry, I say thank you for your patience and then
Yeah,
go
yeah,
right into it. Like, whatever, shit happens. Like, I'm
exactly.
sure everyone's delayed here and there, like, whatever.
Exactly.
But anyway, would you like to, is anyone open to your writing workshops or,
Yeah, it is
yeah,
completely open. I have the event link in my Instagram bio. We hold every Wednesday. I come up with some prompts that really, I don't know, themes that are prevalent. So again, we get into topics such as like empathy, compassion, anxiety, and then I'll invite guest hosts who are friends or writers that I really look up to, invite them to share things as well. And my favorite part of these writing workshops after we kind of write together is an open discussion at the end, because originally it was kind of like open mic where we share our pieces, but I felt people still were really scared and not comfortable because you're in this like on the screen with all these boxes of strangers, and you're like, I don't want to read my stuff, and I just wrote this in like 5 seconds. So I think rather than reading our work, we actually started having dialogue, and we kind of talked about, you know, what the pieces made us feel like, and how the thought process that we were going through, and kind of allowing ourselves to start from there. And then I always encourage people, you know, like, you don't have to have a finished piece in this writing workshop. I'm not telling anybody how to write. It is just being able to give ourselves the groundwork, and the space to just air out our thoughts and feelings. And after the writing workshop, you know, if that gives you, you know, encourages you to kind of give yourself more of that time and give yourself more of that meditation experience, then please do so, because that is the whole premise of it, is just being able to empower others to kind of tap into themselves more. So yes, it is open to everyone. I encourage everyone to take part, because it really is a unique experience. And from others who have joined and participated, for them, they find it very therapeutic and very cathartic. So I think we all need a little more of that in our lives anyways.
absolutely. And your handle is?
My handle is at Little My Sunshine, my being MAI. Yeah.
I'll include it on the post as well, but at Little My Sunshine, it is so cute. I mean, that one's easy to remember. After looking at your smiles, like, how could you forget, people? That's her handle. Feel free to follow her, check out the workshop, follow her anyway, even if you can't go to a workshop, because she has such beautiful insights and photography, and it really is inspiring to watch you.
Thank you so much. And thank you for what you
Thank
do. I
you.
think this is
Oh,
such a great way to really get to, and again, we're breaking boundaries as well, or barriers as well, of having these open discussions and really getting to know each other. So I appreciate you for being able to empower other women and really opening up the conversation that way. So thank you.
oh, thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you, everyone, for watching Beyond Small Talk every Thursday at the 4 o'clock hour. And now go to my link and go to my bio, and there is a link. See, little mess up. Link tree, swipe, whatever, press it, and you'll get to see that we are now on Spotify. So you can carry us around in your podcast pocket and listen to us at any time, right?
Yeah,
So thank you so much, Mai. Thank you,
thank
thank you,
you.
thank you. Have a wonderful Thursday, everyone.
You.
Beyond Small Talk every Thursday. See you next week. Bye.